Right.
Oh dear, oh my God.
Good morning. We're calling the meeting to order, and we now will have a moment of silence. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Yes, sir. Thank you.
We are now in session. We have a quorum with Director Bill Herman, myself, Dan Sullivan, Director Debbie Isaacs, and Director John Holt. Also present is Andrew Smullen, our Comptroller, Richard Lawrence, our Executive Officer, and Christina, our Executive Secretary. And it looks like we have about 7 or 8 members attending, plus Memo Guzman from our office. I just want to make one very quick announcement. The reason this was originally set up to be a workshop, and there's been some speculation on why it was changed to a special session. The reason is very simple. We need to have presented to us the new health insurance plan for employees, and that has to be done in an executive session. And in order to meet an executive session, we have to come from a meeting. And so that's why this was changed to a special meeting and not a workshop. We can't adjourn into executive session from a workshop. That health insurance, there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for it to take place. And one is the board has to accept it or decide which plan they're going to put forth for the coming year. And then the insurance company or the agent broker has to meet with the employees, each one, and get the correct information, and that has to be processed to whatever company we choose. And that all takes some time, and so we need to get it taken care of now. That's the reason. So with that, this open session is to examine the budget, and anyone that has any questions or comments or concerns, please bring them forth at this time.
I would like to say one thing about it, if I may. I hope that everyone realizes that this is just a projection. Past years, we really haven't had really good books to know if some of the was right or wrong or indifferent. So some of the stuff that we're trying to project on this budget is just a good educated guess. A budget is nothing but a worksheet and can be redone if something comes along and shows y'all, us, anyone that's working with this, that it has to be revised because these figures are not exactly what we thought they was. So with that in mind, if anyone has any questions about some of the facts or figures that's on here, just remember that it's just an estimated educational worksheet to work upon. It's not something that's set in stone.
Thank you, John. Guess I'll go right down the line. Debbie, do you have questions?
I got questions when we start going line by line. I need some clarification on why some things are so much higher and some things are so much lower.
Of course.
That's about all I've got.
Okay.
I've really done a pretty extensive sheet here. As the treasurer, I've done an extensive sheet.
This is a fiscal roadmap in effect, and to guide us in the coming year. Bill, do you have any general overall questions?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine with it.
Debbie, you want to lead us? You want to go through it line by line, or just go down with the lines where you have questions?
You gonna do expenses or income first?
Excuse me?
Are we gonna do income or expenses first? Not both at the
Income
same time.
first, yeah.
Income first. Yes. Go ahead before I start.
Starting at the very basic, would you explain the question marks and what the parentheses?
Okay, I can best do that, Jen. That's my fault because I had marked on my copy question marks and things, and that copy was used to make the copies for you. So that's a question mark I had. And would that be under expenses for electricity? I had a question mark there because of it was a significant increase. Also had a question mark on the real estate income because that was a substantial increase. I had a question mark on the motel income. You see, also I had a lot of question marks. I had a question mark recreational income. So, and on the deer and plant life expense, and some of them I have a pretty good idea what the answer is, but I just wanted to clarify it. So we'll be sure to hit those as we go through this process for you.
Okay. The first thing I've got is also the hunt income. I thought the hunt made $105,000 last year, and for 2018 it was at $55,300, and it's only on here for the budget for 2019 is $85,000, a difference of $29,700. Just why did we estimate that so much lower than what we actually made?
That particular line item, was a source of debate between Mr. Smullen and myself. In fact, the last year's hunt was more in the line of $110,000 to $115,000. But there's an ebb and a flow. In the prior year was only in the neighborhood of $55,000, and before that it was actually in the neighborhood of $75,000. So let's just talk about the last couple of years. You had a good year, $75,000. Then you had a not so good year, $55,000. Then you had a very good year of $110,000. So I wanted to be very conservative, to not count on money that may not come in, because it's a moving target. So it just seemed to be a prudent thing to do, is to go conservative.
You cannot possibly give any kind of budget on hunting, because you do not know what the weather, you do not know where people are even thinking. I'm in that business, and I don't count my chickens before the hatch.
That's why I did not want to try to say, well, we're going to do what we did last year. We'll strive to do that, but I'm taking the conservative approach.
Okay.
Impossible.
The next line item was on late fee charges, and that went down. So do you think that we're not going to have as many late charges this year because of what we put in place?
We for the purposes of the budget, I don't think that what we want to do is to depend on the collection of late fee. Our objective, our goal should be to collect assessments in a timely way. And so in our discussions, Mr. Smolin made the point, and I agree with him, that we need to work that down to where eventually it's 0 late fees. But that's offset by the timely collection of the assessments. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I just wanted to hear it out of somebody else's
Once again,
mouth.
it's just, we're taking a very prudent, a very conservative approach to the development of the budget.
The next line item was other income. I don't know what other income really entails, but you didn't put nothing in the budget for it for 2019, but in 2018 so far, there was $7,166.87. What is other? Do we know what other is and why we don't want to leave it in the budget?
Do you want to respond to that one? Okay, then I'll try to respond to that one.
We should know.
We should, yes, other income could be, I'm trying to think what an example might be off the top of my head.
Some rebate or some description is the most likely. The problem is that, as you know, I'm sorry I'm interrupting now. The problem is, as you know, there's been a great deal of discussion about whether certain items are in the right lines. And it's very possible that this number should really have been allocated to one of the other lines. And certainly, when I'm doing the accounting, I will try to do that. So I think 0 is the right number for the budget.
Yes, and building upon what he just said, as it comes to me, a possible other income would have been the premium rebate for insurance when we did so well in keeping our losses down. We received a check of several $1,000s. That would have been other income. But again, for our purposes of building the budget, we don't want to rely upon money that may not come.
Then I'm going down to real estate income. The budget for last year was $35,137. We've got in here for 2019 of $80,000, an increase of $44,863. How are you justifying that big of a jump?
My immediate reaction would be that the estimate in the prior budget of $35,000 was probably a low estimate. Do you happen to know the actuals?
The 80,000 is based on the run rate for this year.
So we're basing the projection of 80,000 next year on the actuals of the previous year.
Okay, so it looks like real estate this year so far through July was $65,918 then. So that's what you're basing it off of.
So if you see that the 35,000 was a low ball estimate in the prior budget and the actuals was in the neighborhood of 65,000, it's not unreasonable to project 80,000 in that line item when keeping in mind that we are going to be doing an inventory of all of the properties that we have and an appraisal of all of the properties that we have and a more concerted effort to sell those properties.
I know we've had a lot of sales this year, but I'm looking at transfer fees. 27,000 of that is transfer fees. You really think we're going to have a big sale this year in properties being resold? I mean, that seems pretty high for transfer fees alone, and only 30,000 for lot sales. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I'm looking at the July through October.
Transfer fees?
I'm looking at our October through July, which are the last
You're looking
figures.
at the profit and loss statement?
Yes, I am.
Which account number did you
Count number is 30052. Real estate transfer fees.
Okay, so that may be included in real estate income.
I think it is.
Yeah, that would be lumped into real estate income. You're looking at a profit and loss, not a budget line item.
Well, I'm just looking at what we've brought in so far according to this year is what I was looking at. And I just
All
thought,
of which says to me that 80,000 is probably a good number.
the next one I have down here is motel revenue. We really don't think the improvements to the motel are going to bring in more profits than what we had. We had 282 last year and 220 this year, a difference of $62,000 there. Just why do we not think the motel will do better this year than?
Well, that's also based on run rate for this year. I didn't get any indication from department managers that was going to be different next year.
And
So it's just a starting point, it's a preliminary number.
but again, it's a good conservative number. We have to keep some other things in mind too. The 282 was based on numbers of prior years for the budget of last year. The 220 is based on more current numbers. The motel was not as productive as it was in prior years, number one. And number two, as we look forward, there's going to be a lot of downtime as we begin to renovate those motel rooms. And so I'm just afraid to estimate too high.
We've already had some downtime.
We've already had some downtime.
You're gonna have some more downtime.
And you know, during the plumbing phase, we had a lot of downtime, and I don't know how to project how that's going to impact us. I just have to be conservative in our estimate.
Okay. I'm not grilling you, I'm just asking questions.
I know that. That's fine. Yeah, he makes, Mr. Smeller makes a good point. We don't know what the hunt is going to do for us, and we rely upon the hunt to up our motel revenue. So again, if we're going to err, we're going to err on the conservative side.
Okay, then that's probably the same thing with the RV, because the RV revenue is only went up 20,000, and so far this year, or 15,000, and so far this year we're at 187,386. So you're just playing conservative here again with the
Yes,
RV
ma'am.
park.
Yes, ma'am. Now, if we low estimate and then we do considerably better, then I'm going to be happy.
I get it. On the youth income, where do you plan on making $1,000 on youth income anymore? It was at 4,287. You brought it down to 1,000. How do you really justify even making 1,000 on youth center income?
Well, it's also prorated based on the current year's run rate. I mean, there is some small amount of revenue in the current year in the actuals.
And by and large, that income comes from the sale of
Snacks and
snacks
stuff
and
originally.
things, but you see, we don't have a staff member out there any longer. And so it's going to be, we're going to be looking to the parents to have activities for their own children collectively as groups to do that. So I'm not anticipating the same kind of income unless we can still sell the
Well,
snacks.
that was what I'm saying. If you've got nothing going on down there, where do you really think you're going to get $1,000 at? It's not a lot of money, but still, it's just a question that when I look at it.
Right. Well,
Do we have facility
We're-
rentals in there?
that would, not in that line, it'd be up in the, in answer to your question, it's a guess.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll make $1,000. Because I know we'll make some.
That's really pretty much all I really had on the income. Does anybody else have anything that I didn't bring up before I?
Just the income you're talking?
Just the income.
I have one that you didn't cover that I had, and that was the recreational income other. And I imagine, again, this is simply an accounting function that it's going to be charged to particular accounts rather than that, but I see a drop from 11,000 to nothing.
Yes, sir. Recall that we had established a budget for the activities director, and we no longer have an activities director. She was allocated $11,000 to $12,000 that she would generate in revenue and that she would also expend, but now that goes away.
Thank you. That's all I have on the income. Anyone else, and you folks in the audience, if you have any questions, just throw your hand up. Linda?
I don't see anything here about the horse club. What is that under?
About the horse club does not have a line item. They are not an entity. The horse club, the stables would be under a trade account.
Oh, trade account, okay.
Or one of the general rentals, facility venues, or trade account. It would be in one of those. Which would show any revenue generated from the rental of the stall.
Would it be in the accounting that Debbie has with the line items that we get on a monthly basis?
Yes.
It's in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Lady in the back had her hand up.
He answered the question.
Thank you. Okay, Bill or John, do you have any more questions on income?
Nope.
All right, well, let's jump to the expenses.
There's one thing, Andrew, Mr. Smolin, on the election annual meeting, that shows to be department number 430804. And then if you go down a couple more lines, landfill expenses, that also shows to be code number 430804. I think that should be 430808 there.
The landfill.
For the landfill.
You may be right. Thank you for pointing that out.
I wanted to be sure and let y'all know that before I started. 430808 is what I picked up from other paperwork.
Very good, thank you. We'll make that change.
Okay.
I do need to tell you, at the top of that budget of expenses, payroll reflects not only the reduction of staff and the lawn care contract, but it also, that 1.035, it includes a 3% across the board increase for the salaries of the staff.
Okay, the first item I've got is electricity, 430201, budgeted for 2018 was 137,645. You've only got it in the budget for 2019 as 184,267. I'm looking at the projected October through July of 208,009. Why are we underestimating that much with the increase in the Rio Grande bills?
You're looking at, I'm not sure what you're looking at. I'm just looking at the actuals for 10 months at a run rate of approximately 13,500. And we projected that out and added 18% to that. So I'm not quite sure.
Well, if you look again at our October through July, there's also another 20-something thousand down here to be allocated that had not been coded out to one department or another. And when I do the math on what I get on a monthly basis from, I am looking at the P&L that we're showing we've spent $208,000 on electricity so far this year and only had one bill with the increase in it.
I have to look at that. I don't have the information in front of me that you're referring to, but I can give you an answer back on that.
Okay,
Yes, I'm looking at the line items. I started with the line items from the previous year's budget and projected out those lines because that was basically the format that had been presented in the past. And you know, I took my numbers from account number 430201. So if there's something else I'm not seeing in these
Okay.
accounts, I'll have to look at that. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer right now.
that's fine. It was just an underestimate, and I knew we had the increase, 18.5%, so that figure bothered me.
Did Summer Energy increase their rates to us too, do you know? Or just Rio Grande?
I thought we had a contract with them.
Well, we do, part of our electricity is Summer Energy and part of it is Rio Grande.
Right, but I mean, I think we have a contract, so if we still in the contract, they can't change the rate right now.
Yeah,
That's
you're
all I'm
right
saying.
on that. I'm not familiar with the contract though, but I do know they approved one.
My next question was telephone Texanet. In 2018, we were 39,666. 2019 is 2,880. So where is our internet show up at? I think this is just strictly telephone now on that line item. So where is the internet fees charged?
You're absolutely correct. The line item is still, the title of it is still telephone/Texanet. In actuality, it should say just telephone. That 2880 is a telephone charge. The Texanet contract goes under contract services, 430-400.
I'll ask another question on that in a minute.
Okay.
On our health insurance, it was 142,702. This year we're budgeting for 167,137. If we've got fewer employees, why did that go up $24,000?
Two things happen. In the first place, our health insurance agent has already informed us we can anticipate a 20% increase in the prior year. The second thing that happened is we did lose some personnel, but of the personnel that we lost, there was only a few of them, very few of them, who actually participated in the healthcare program, and therefore, when they left, it did not have an impact on the overall.
Okay. Supplies. It seems like that went up from 59,000 to 90,000, a 31,214 increase. What is really in supplies? What does supplies really entail?
Everything. It entails everything.
Is that supplies like nuts and bolts? Is it
It's
stuff
nuts
like
and
paper
bolts,
goods? Is it
it's
your...
paper goods, it's hotel supplies, towel sheets, it's detergent, it's bleach, it's all the office supplies that this company uses is included in that as well. It might include also belts to replace on a mower, or it's all the things. And the reason that it went up, I think, is because the 2018, once again, the 2018 number was lowball, and we missed that guess, I think.
Okay, but if we wanted, say, as the treasurer, I wanted to see what our paper goods cost us, I could get just what that, I could get a breakdown of what was really in that and what had been spent?
We can provide that kind of information.
Okay.
But it's
Not as a breakdown of the account, but as an analysis of by purchases from vendors, provided we are consistent with our vendors. I'd just like to add that this is an area, the whole purchases cycle, where there is going to be a very strong focus on improving internal controls, making sure that people who need to understand what's being purchased are able to look at that and determine whether there's surplus or whether, you know, that they, if they're ordering certain items too often, and also for the consistency in reporting between supplies and, say, repairs. Because I think that's an area where, you know, the numbers are quite large, and we should have better controls over that so we can report on a more granular level as you're asking.
Okay. Richard, you wanted to say something really bad.
Not really bad, but along those very lines, the ability for us right now to tell you that we purchased this much paper good in the form of toilet paper, paper towels, and things of that sort for the motel, that we could provide you with a stack of invoices in which that could be sorted out. But right now, to be able to say, push a button and say how much paper goods, we can't do that yet. You know, I can look ahead and say, boy, that's a good way to go, and
Yeah.
we'll eventually get there. But remember, it's going to take a long time.
I was sitting in that seat over there and had to explain all this stuff once before. This is kind of fun over here
Oh,
asking the
good. You're off to the
questions.
side. You just keep
I was a
throwing
purchasing agent.
those- keep throwing those spitballs. That's all right.
No, my next one was postage. Why did postage jump from $2,785 to $9,728? I think some of our postage this year should have been charged to our election, but I'm not real sure.
Yep, I think so too. And it may have been coded there when it should have been coded in elections, because I had allocated a substantial amount in elections for postage. But yeah, but we had several massive mailings. Well, several. We had, I think, at least 3 massive mailings last year.
So you think that $9,000, almost $10,000 is a good figure to leave in for postage?
Based on the way it's been accounted for, and I can't guarantee you that I wouldn't come back and say maybe we should account for it differently, but the way it's been accounted for, the answer is yes, because you know, your 10-month actual is over $8,000. Now I'd look at, I'll take the time to look in the account to see what's being put in there, and to see whether it should go somewhere else. For me, there's always an issue between postage and printing when it's one process. And so when you're printing and then sending out for you know, mass mailings or whatever, that the problem you have is when somebody new takes over the accounting, they have a different view from the previous person. And there has been quite a lot of turnover recently, and the people who are handling that, doing the accounting. So we need to have more consistency. We need to have the same person, or I can supervise to make sure that accounts are used on a more consistent basis going forward than previously. But right now, we can only base our budget on the way it's been accounted
for. Next item I had was the building maintenance repair. There was nothing in there budgeted last year, nothing budgeted this year, but we actually have spent $19,806 through July. You don't anticipate any building maintenance repair at all for the year?
Sure we do. Sure we do. But which building maintenance and repair and renovations and things of that sort still needs to be determined by the board. Many of the repairs and whatnot that were made in the previous year was, I think, compensated for by the restricted fund, although the expenditure did occur. For example, there was $19,000 worth of plumbing that occurred. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, what our next step is going to be is for the board to finally prioritize all of the 10-year repair and replacement plan, so that we will then be able to more closely identify what it is that needs to be repaired, what doesn't need to be repaired, what are we going to do this year, what are we going to do next year, I hope that answers your question.
Can I just approach this from a technical perspective? At a certain point, the use of the restricted fund was more clearly defined. At that point, this line item probably should have been taken out of the general fund, because the items that would have gone into this line, building maintenance repair, would come from the restricted fund, and this is why you're saying zeros. So we've kind of, it's run its course now, and perhaps this line disappears from the general fund from now.
If I can make a comment on that. I generally agree with what you're talking about, and all major renovations and repairs and that are going to be done, and probably as much as possible as is prudent will be paid for out of the restricted fund. However, I think on general routine maintenance, that has to come out of the general fund. And it may be probably fit in with some of your other line items, like for supplies and that type of thing, but it may be worthwhile to consider looking at including some dollar amount in this line item for routine maintenance.
I agree with that, and would go further in that I believe that we should be, as you say, reallocating items from other accounts into this one. I mean, in order not to trip over ourselves and have confusion between this and the restricted fund, we could give this a slightly different label, but I do believe we should be pulling things from other line items to go into this, because and we should be more specific, not just building, but be more specific as to which buildings.
Thank you.
And again, if we have the board's input as to what is prioritized with respect to the repair and replacement, then we'll also have an idea as to how that would impact this work.
Okay. Well, it just looked funny that we didn't have something for repair and maintenance of our buildings, because we never know, something should be there, I think.
And the same thing, if you don't mind me saying, would apply to the line following the equipment purchases.
Yes.
It's the same discussion.
Well, and I don't know about parts, but parts to me would be like motors and that looks awful. I think maybe some of the parts and repair items are being charged somewhere else too, because again, this is just, I was responsible for buying nuts, bolts, paper, everything there was, and there's lots of parts that are bought, and
$1,000 won't buy very many parts.
And that kind of, I see with, and again, it could just be miscoded somewhere else, but I don't think that's a true figure if we're going to try to fix our books properly. Next item. Equipment repairs and maintenance, I don't really have a real problem with that. The only thing is, I see that we're already through July, have spent $32,000, and we're only estimating $30,983. I'm just wondering if that's is a good figure there, that it should not be a little higher.
That's related to the number of people in the maintenance department, and so is the following line, the gas and oil.
The gas and oil also has gone down. I really don't perceive that gas and oil is going to go down either, but in our budget we took it down $2,000 something here.
What it is,
I know we don't have as many trucks right now, or as many.
that's exactly it.
Okay.
Not as many people driving the
trucks.
Right.
Right.
Not as
Okay.
many people driving, and also I'll point out where, and this goes back to the previous conversation, the equipment repairs and maintenance, that line item might be including the parts up above it.
Okay.
You see, so we need to look at both of those lines and see, do we need a parts, or does that just be included into the repair and maintenance?
No, I'd like to see a better picture of where our money's really going, personally. I mean, so if somebody says, well, oh, that was nuts and bolts and screws and fencing or whatever, versus, oh, well, that was really gas and oil. I mean, I just would like to see the breakdown more, so we can do a better budget next year. year after next. And that's the only way you're gonna get it, is to finally do it right, get the coding right, and then try to educate our people that are doing the inputs. It's a hard job, believe me, and you gotta have cheat sheets. You gotta have them there beside you when you're putting them in. Chemicals, there's an increase of $1,000 something there. Is that for pool chemicals, or is that chemicals because of the golf course and somebody actually, what are those chemical
The answer to
increases?
that is yes.
Okay,
Yes, what?
Yes, it's both, it's all of that.
all of the
Yeah,
above.
it's chlorine, it's insecticides, it's herbicides, it's
All of it.
And then on the same thing, I go down here and I look at sand and seed. We had 3,792, and then you only putting 1,000 in. This is hearsay talk. I thought they were going to try to overseed the greens this year, so would that not be more sand and seed up front to get it to where it needs to be? But then we decrease the cost there.
Well, here is another coding issue perhaps, but there was zero booked to that account until last week. So I don't know, because I've only been here a few minutes. I don't
I get
know
it, but that's the
where
reason
all
I'm
that
questioning.
sand has gone. I mean, so I need to find out where, if there's something that you think should have been in this account, and we did spend money on it, where did it go? Where else is it in here? I think it's one of the problems of having so many line items, that you're less likely to get it wrong if you have fewer line items. But I take your point that even if you have fewer line items, you still need to know what is actually in each one, what makes up each line item. But this, I think, is overly detailed in a number of accounts, and this is why we're asking so many questions. Why is this one up, but something else is down, and maybe the two are related?
Well, I can
I have to
promise
find
you,
that out.
I don't play golf, but I researched it big time, and that ain't enough money for sand and seed.
I just know that sometime in the past,
It has to be sand.
the golf committee has bought seed out of the funds that we raised, charging for mulligans. Our cash count is what it is. And every golfer out there will buy a mulligan or something, which goes into that fund. And in the past, we have bought seed because for whatever reason, they didn't want to ask for the things they needed. And I think with what's going on right now, and if we can get it up to where it needs to be, I think that's an underestimate for the golf course for next year.
Then we will consult more with the golf superintendent
I think that's
and see what it is we need to do.
My next item, marketing, advertising. We had 15,000 budgeted. You left 15,000 in there. At a board meeting a couple of months ago, we done away with that $400 or $500 billboard out there. Are we going to spend the 15,000? I guess, because we're only at 7,034 so far this year. I don't know why are you wanting to keep the 15,000?
Because I keep hoping that we're going to develop a marketing plan and actually execute that.
Good answer. Thank you.
I think it definitely needs to be in there, because we definitely need to bring more people in to play golf, you know.
But I want you to understand also that marketing is a profession. It's a skill. It requires know-how, and I don't have that marketing ability. I don't know how to do it. We're going to have find someone who does know how to do it, and then be able to put a plan together based on the mission and vision statements of this board.
I do have a question, and Mr. Smolin, you may be able to answer this, but our audit... Well, I didn't want to put you on the spotlight here. I don't even know the question. The auditing. At one time, when I was on the board before, we were told that if we had somebody in the banking business or somebody that knew CPA done that our audits should go down. Should our audits go down this year with you working for us? This coming year?
I believe it should, yes. This year, well, it
No,
depends.
not
what
this
you-
year. No, I'm next year, so I
Okay,
guess that's what I'm
so
getting
the
at.
auditors will come in around about December, and the expenditure for that audit, which is the audit for the year just about to be completed, I can't tell you that the cost is going to be lower. I will be doing some significant year-end work that probably has not been done before, but I can't tell you that, what the auditors might be looking at or finding from the previous 10 or 11 months of the year. So I can't tell you that the audit fee will be less than last year. But the following year, then it's on me.
That's what I'm asking about. This budget year should be cheaper on us as far as a company. Should be.
Well, okay, they're going to be auditing the current year, but they're not going to be doing it until well into the fiscal year that we're
Okay.
budgeting for. So the cost for this year's budget is not going to be much better, if at all. And the cost of this year's budget is going in, this year's audit is going into this budget that we're looking at. And that's why there's no reduction this time around.
All right. Aren't you glad I didn't ask you?
I could have asked that.
I've already told you about the coding thing. The deer plant life hunt. 1,200 up to 10,901. Is that for the anticipated cost of what?
Okay, in the past, all of the expenses that were related to, primarily to the hunt and the, actually for the wildlife program, all of those expenses were somehow absorbed into administration, some of which was even absorbed into security, primarily because Matt Bland was the security chief, and he's the one that's also in charge of this program. So I asked Matt to please sort it out and let us know exactly what you need to have a successful hunt program this year.
That's a great explanation, thank you.
I'd just like to add to that answer that there was not a separate classification department, if you like, in the accounts for the hunt, and I created that, so hopefully we'll be able to compile the hunt specific revenue and expenses into its own P&L, which we haven't done before.
And this is more or less just to educate me, but on the credit card fees, that only went up $1,275. What are the credit card fees? Is what we're losing because people are paying with their credit cards, or what is that actually, credit card fee?
We're paying for the credit card clearing, payment clearing companies.
Okay.
And no, we need to look at that. We have several different companies, and it's one of the things I'm going to be looking at closely and with Mr. Lawrence to see if maybe we could use one primary and do a package deal with them rather than all the different. We have different systems in different places. The bar, the pro shop there, and we need to kind of see how that happened and how to maybe do a better deal with one major clearing company.
You can.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah,
I've got one company that handles everything,
yeah.
and they give me a whole lot better price. I mean,
Because
I
of your
reduce
volume.
mine a whole lot.
Well, I just think with younger people coming in that use those credit cards more and more, is that a good figure then? I know that some of our older people don't like the automatic pay, automatically take it out of my account. I do know the younger people use them a whole lot more. So do you really think that $30,000 increase is sufficient?
I would say that I don't have a better number than that. I'm sorry, it's not a very good answer, but
It's the only
Well, I
one.
think that's the
Yeah.
answer.
Well, I just wanted the clarification for my own self, and I was just wondering, because I know our membership is getting younger and younger. Younger people use them even to go across the street to Burger and Shake. I'd spend money personally, but that was just a question in my own mind.
Here's the thing generally, to respond to a lot of these questions. We have some ideas about the things that we can do to make things better, to improve, to rationalize costs, whatever. But we haven't done any of them yet because, you know, we've got to look at this and plan it out. And so all we've got right now is an ongoing situation. And in that ongoing situation, what's happening right now and what has been happening in the last few months is the best guide you've got. So even though I say, yeah, maybe we could do, as Mr. Hope says, we could do a deal with a single credit card company, I don't know when that will happen, and in the meantime, we're dealing with what we're dealing with now.
Sure.
So we can't do any better than, information-wise, than what we're putting in here right now.
Okay, that's everything I had. Thank y'all for your answers. Thank y'all.
I have a question with this. I do an automatic, you all do an automatic draft on my bank account. Do you pay a percentage for that, like
No.
you do for credit card? No, okay, good, I'll leave it.
Yes, ma'am.
Lisa,
I just have a question. I know that too many light items make more difficult, like you said. But we have our various revenue streams, and I don't know how do we accurately know our profit and loss if, say, the supplies or stuff are lumped in from the hotel, from maintenance, from whatever? How are we going to have an accurate view of each revenue center on what, you know? I mean,
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. But I would say that the answer to that is we have not had an accurate accounting or an accurate projection of the profit and loss, say, for example, the motel. Because we don't know, for example, how many man hours from the maintenance department was applied to the motel, just as an example. Or if the housekeeping for the motel was also doing housekeeping for the adult center or the Dickman Hall or things. So all of these things in the course of time are going to be sorted out so that we can make those kinds of analyses to see, is our motel truly making a profit? And if so, how large of a profit is it making? And we do the same thing not only with the motel, but also the RV park and the golf operation and the hunt operation. So, yeah. That's why we have this fellow right here.
Is that what's coming in the future?
But it may be in the distant future because we have a lot of repair work to make before we're at that point. But that's our objective, that's our goal, to make those kinds of analyses.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of franchise taxes are we paying?
I'm sorry?
Franchise tax?
We're a Texas corporation, and Texas corporations are subject to Texas state tax.
That's not franchise
It's called franchise tax
in Texas.
well, it used to be called franchise tax. I think it's called marginal tax now, but it's always been called franchise tax.
Probably.
Would that not be what we pay on our beer tax and our sales of our, no?
This is for the privilege of doing
Oh, doing
in
business,
Texas.
okay.
Yeah.
And Lisa, back to you. I have already talked to Mr. Smullen about those concerns. He's got more issues to fry right now. But that has already been something as a treasurer, I have actually talked to him that in the future, I'd like to see it maybe twice a year, the breakdown somehow. But that's not going to happen until we get through the end of the year and he knows what's going on here. But no, that is a concern.
Absolutely. I just wanted to know that it was on the radar.
Yeah, that's for sure on the radar. We gotta know every penny that's coming in and every penny that's going out on every item here, which has never, ever been done. So, but yeah, it's not gonna happen overnight.
I'd just like to amplify this discussion a little bit. we have tended to rely, from my observations, we've tended to rely on a bookkeeping service coming in at the end of the month. The focus of the bookkeeping service has been on statutory work. As what do we have to do to be in compliance with a package of information that the board needs, or preparing our various Texas state taxes, the mixed beverage tax, the hotel tax, and not much time has been spent on this kind of analysis that you're talking about. The first thing really I said to the board at the first meeting I was at, the focus has been, what I've been hearing is horizontal. The items maybe not put in the right classes, but I think there should be a focus on the vertical, which is you've got various departments and you need to know whether each of them is profitable. And maybe it doesn't matter, it matters less whether something's in supplies or repairs, and matters more whether it's in hunt or RV. So that's going to be my focus, to try to get department managers focused on proper allocations of expenses within their areas of responsibility.
And I had already done this when I first came in as the treasurer and talked with Richard, and he did find some of that stuff. And he told me he moved it around. I hope he did. But no, that is a true issue. If you're going to really try to keep up with what entity's doing what, it is a big issue.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jan?
Well, this is really, anyway, as a new member of the Preservation Committee, where would that be on?
I couldn't catch what.
Preservation.
What
She
about it?
said, as a new member of the Preservation Committee, where would that line item be found? Is that what you said?
Well, I don't think it's a restricted fund,
Yeah,
so that would
that's-
not be on this budget at all.
Yeah, this budget has to do with the general account, I believe.
Yes.
And the restricted fund, the historical building preservation repairs in there. And thank you for serving on that. We're going to take no action on this budget today. It's going to be presented for approval and adoption at our regular meeting September 19th. This meeting today was to make anyone that was available and interested to be able to obtain information on it, and for the board to also obtain and have a week to sort of absorb it. We now are going to have to go into an executive session, and that's going to be to have presented to us all the options available for our employee health insurance by the insurance person, and we're going to discuss Richard's employment contract, and there again is going to be no action taken. There may be a couple other items that come up there, but the discussion will be for informational purposes, and the board will not act on anything until next week at the regular meeting. However, we have a problem. As you know, unfortunately, one of our employees, Cindy Flores, had a tragedy with her son and is not here. She usually takes care of the payroll, and Andrew is going to have to step in as the new member of our staff and do that payroll. He needs to do it today. He's going to need his office available to do it, so we're going to have our executive session here, which means, I apologize, but we're going to ask you folks to wait out in the lobby. I don't think this should be real long.
Mr. Sullivan, before everybody goes, please don't go yet,
Please don't.
because this
We got a
is
birthday.
Debbie's birthday. And
we got
we have cake here, and we would like you to come and join us in celebrating her birthday. And can we begin with the song?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Debbie. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And many more.
Okay.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
You wanna, you're gonna do that here?
I'll be glad to.
Okay,
It
never mind.
would be an honor.
Just do it out.
Sure, before we run everybody out of here.
I know.
I know.
Take the cake out.
Are we gonna take a picture of her with her cake?
Sure.
By the way, our special session has been adjourned.
Okay, there is that.
Christine?